everyone. I am Shivani Bhandari, an architect and designer at Studio Shivani Bhandari Designs, which is a practice executing interior design and art projects pan India. And today I'm thankful for this opportunity from Abir Space that, and especially Ruby Jagrat, who has given us this beautiful connecting platform for all the designers to share our knowledge of art and practices. And where she calls it room for art and not just room for art, she would put it as room for more art. So there's an emphasis. And for me, art, if we talk about, art has been always a prominent part of my life because when I was a kid, I've been painting and I got it from my mother, who had been an eminent artist of her time. And when, let's say, I'm conducting art workshops, art has been there, or if I'm teaching at CEPT University, it's a topic of discussions between me and my students. So, yes, art has always been there in my life till date. It has been just going on. When we talk about using art in my projects, I feel there's not like a fine line between art and interior design as we are designing spaces, but art eventually is a part of design. So, if let's say we are talking about the process of conceptualizing art, and I'm imagining a space that has to be designed, that space or that piece of art that is kept in the space, it'll have an emotional power to instigate a user's thought, or it'll have an energy that will evoke certain senses in the users. So when I'm designing that space, I do not keep it as a separate entity, but I would try to make it a part of the space by giving all these special elements that I'm using their own identity. Imagine a room and just one piece of art, a small piece that you could think of in the entire interior space, which is just all white. And it is definitely going to be a point of focus for you. It's driving your attention. But when you're looking at the same piece kept in a part of your living room, and then you're trying to imagine how much importance you want to give to the space or that piece of art, it depends upon you, how you're wanting to draw your attention towards that space. So, are we putting it on a finely carved wooden or a brass table? And then, there's you're opening the curtains and just one beam of light is coming and it's getting lit in its own natural manner. So it'll become a talked thing in your house when you have guests or people coming around. So a new communication method it'll bring, plus it'll also have a backstory to it. So it's the people and the stories that are associated with art that will add value to that project. And I think it's more about these stories that are linking us all together. So that's how it should all come up in the end. So even when you're seeing Lippen work done in the city of Kutch, or on the contrary, you are walking on the streets of Florence and you are seeing these artists paint their pieces, which are very like hands on. And then you're, somewhere reflecting all these stories and all these linkages in the design that you're generating. So when we say interior design is an experience, art sure does add value to it. And it sure does add value to that entire experience that it is giving to its users. When we are conceptualizing art while designing an interior project, we want the art to be synced with the kind of design language that we're generating. So, when we are beginning with the art process, or when we are beginning with the process of conceptualizing the entire theme that a space would have, so let's say if you have a modern space, or you're talking about developing a conceptually classical or a Scandinavian space, or if you're even talking about putting it as a very, very contemporary space, every art object will have its own identity. So we would start it in that manner, then it'll go with, of course, pitching it to the clients and then followed by the selections and all. So it's an entire process that starts not just abruptly in the end, but since beginning, art has its own value addition, its own importance to it that is given. Procuring art, I would say, is very subjective. It varies with every project. For instance, in a restaurant project that we've completed, we had a 30 feet long painting. It was an abstract art piece on canvas, which even received an award for becoming the longest painting in a restaurant project in Asia. And after I conceptualized the idea, the chef himself, who was the owner, he's a dear friend and an art fanatic, he painted the entire stretch. So, what happened eventually after it is we had mutually agreed upon painting that, and it turned out beautiful, of course, but it ended up in becoming an art piece which has an emotional connect because we had various amount of discussions of art, various amount of discussions about how artists would go about it. So there was a lot of knowledge and a fair share of talks that was done in between the entire process. So this procuring part would vary. So sometimes I would locally source it from the city's artists, or I would buy it from the local artist friends that I have. Or sometimes I would even like to bring the artisans on site and get things casted on site. So that's how it goes. Social media or internet, if asked, is a boon or a bane, I strongly feel it's a blessing in disguise. For the artists that had their own tough time during COVID, and also with the future developments and the evolution of technology, art has somehow blurred its boundaries. That's how we have a high amount of digital arts these days. And the art fraternity has started connecting, it has been diversifying, and it has globalized with the kind of progress internet has made somehow. So that's the power of social media, or the power of internet, or the power of online viewing that we're talking about. And the only limitations that I feel it has is obviously we cannot touch or feel it, but the kind of progress it brings to an artist's life is quite eminent in that manner. So I would obviously feel that it's helping out in the growth of artists and designers and all the art fraternities. To conclude, I'm thankful for this opportunity from Abir Space and especially Miss Ruby Jagrat is connecting all of us designers through this beautiful platform, which is not just room for art, but it says room for more art.